Well, hello, America, and welcome to Common Sense. I'm Wendy Bell. There's a dirty but common little trick in politics called the wrap-up smear. Have you heard about this? Nancy Pelosi bragged about it years ago as a strategy to tarnish an opponent. It begins with a fake allegation that's then handed as a scoop to a clueless or a dirty reporter who then publishes the fake story and gives its spreader the headline to smear their opponent. Now, the most sinister thing of all here is that there needn't be a shred of truth or a single attributable source who goes on the record for this fake smear to be effective. All you need are voices to amplify the lie. You got CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times. The left would, of course, argue Fox News and even, yes, Newsmax, and whatever segment of the population that still believes whatever the media tells it. Wrap-up smears, though, get us into wars, and they lead to devastating lockdowns. And they put good people who want to do right by the people into exhausting positions, forced almost to defend themselves, until, that is, they try to smear Pete Hegseth. The Secretary of Defense sure must be making a lot of people nervous for him to be so squarely the focus of the biggest smear I saw this week, okay? President Trump calls it fake news. He signaled strongly his solidarity with the Secretary of Defense. So are you ready to unpack it? Well, let's meet the panel. Ari Hoffman hosts The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 AM KVI in Seattle, and he writes for the Post Millennial. Good to see you back. Tara Servatius hosts The Tara Show on 98.9 Word FM from Greenville, South Carolina. Hello there, dear. And Chris Arps co-hosts The Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on News Talk St. Louis 101.9 and 94.1 FM. Chris, welcome back. All of you. All right, let's get to it. Fresh off of one Signalgate smear alleging Secretary Hegseth was too careless to see a reporter was added to an encrypted message chain. Here comes round number 2 for Pete, courtesy of the New York Times. All right, so I want to start with the headline. This is what it says. Hegseth said to have shared attack details in second Signal chat. The subhead then says, the defense secretary sent sensitive information about strikes in Yemen to an encrypted group chat that included his wife and brother. People familiar with the matter say. Ari Hoffman, people familiar with the matter say. I mean, that breaks every basic rule of journalism 101, attribution. Like, if journalists can report anything and never source anyone for saying it, like, where is the truth?
There is no truth. They're just desperate to get Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth should be flattered by all this because he knows if you're taking flack, you must be over the target. The left has been trying for decades to get its hooks into the military. That was one part of government they didn't really have. And we saw under the Biden administration, we saw that they had their hooks in it, even all the way up to the command levels. You remember all the insane pictures we saw of generals. You saw the incompetent generals and people we had leading the military. You saw the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. You saw how it went woke and their recruiting numbers went down. Well, Pete Hegseth has reversed all that. Recruiting numbers are through the roof. Everybody wants to be part of the military, and the left can't handle it. They are going after him because of how successful he is and because he destroyed woke in the military.
100%. You know, and Tara, some high-level Pentagon staffers have been escorted out of the building and put on leave, some fired. Alleged leakers, they say. You've got Secretary Hegseth's senior advisor. His name's Dan Caldwell. His deputy chief of staff, Darren Selznick, chief of staff, Joe Casper, and Colin Carroll, who's the chief of staff to the deputy defense secretary, Stephen Feinberg. Now, these are all men that President Trump picked before Pete Hegseth was even confirmed. Now Pete Hegseth has kicked them out. Tara, read this for me.
We've got to do a better job of vetting these people. This continues to keep biting us over and over and over again. And they get the headline, they get the hit. There's still a number of people who believe it. But you know what, Wendy? You started this with something you said, about journalism today. I was a journalist for many years in mainstream media newsrooms. I used to write for McClatchy back in the day. And I can remember even in the liberal newsroom, I was the only conservative in there, where if you had an anonymous source, okay, that was enough to get your editor to agree that you could pursue the story. Okay, that was it. You would never run a story on an anonymous source. That's crazy. And that was the liberal newsroom. right? And it had to be a good anonymous source, and your editor had to know who it was, or forget it, you weren't getting the time or dollars to do it. So, I mean, now we have the New York Times doing the ultimate and sloppy reporting. I mean, I have a journalism degree from UNC Chapel Hill. You don't run a story off one anonymous source. I mean, these are
100%.
hit jobs.
And now it's one anonymous source or 4 people close to the investigation. You know, and what about this, Chris? I mean, look at some other headlines here. Here's The Hill. The Pentagon is in disarray under Hegseth. The Guardian calls it a full-blown meltdown. Total chaos at the Pentagon, says NBC News. And now this apparent, whopping smear by NPR that Trump is looking to replace Pete Hegseth. Like not a chance, says the president. He says it's fake news. So how does the average American wade through the garbage to find out what's real, Chris?
Well, I tell you what I really believe is going on here is someone who has been involved in politics and has been involved in campaigns and has ran campaigns. I think what we see with these dismissals were a power struggle within the Pentagon. Look, the media are willing pawns in a disgruntled employee trying to get back at his bosses. One of the people that was fired or left last week, he left saying that I think he was under the impression that he was going to be the #1 Pentagon spokesman. He said, quoted, I said that I will not be #2. And then he left a few days after these 3 were walked out. So I think what we're seeing here is sour grapes, and the media is willing pawns involved in this situation. And we're kind of seeing MAGA on MAGA violence here. And it's because in politics, you've got alpha male personalities, you've got people who want to be the top dog. And I think we're just seeing some people didn't receive the positions that they thought they were, and now they are using the media to air their grievances.
To vet it out in the court of public opinion, if you will. Okay, so now here comes the good part. The takedown. Ari, but your dad, I know you're going to love this, at the White House Easter egg roll with his family. I want you to listen to Pete Hegseth turn the tables on a reporter who tries to merchandise the second Signal Gate smear.
What a big surprise that a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax. Won't give back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. And on hoaxes, time and time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me.
Oh my gosh. My favorite part was they got Pulitzers. Pulitzer. I mean, it was crazy. Ari, he didn't take the bait. I mean, describe that to me.
Well, I got to say, looking at those kids looking at him, I don't know if those are his kids or kids who are attending the event, but either way, they were watching something amazing happening right there. And I hope for days like that where I can be in front of my kids and they look at their father and they go, look at the amazing thing my dad did, the way I look at them. And I say, look at the amazing thing my kid just did. These people are trying to bully Pete Hegseth, their father, in front of the kids. And you know what? There's a time and a place to do that. And he's a public official and he's taking public questions. So it's going to happen. But at the same time, he shut them down and they get to say, my dad stood up to all these crazy reporters who were lying about him. And look how he went right back at him and called him out. That's my hero.
I love it. And I love that you saw it too. I was like, go! Okay, guys, hang tight because, not even Easter, as we have established, can be fun anymore for America's children. How Democrats tried to ruin a sweet childhood tradition at America's house. Coming up next on Common Sense.